Talker. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
All right, welcome back, folks, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. We're talking about some horror stories in real estate. When things don't go according to plan, when people decide to take advantage of people, when they decide not to close, what are your rights? What are your options? What are some crazy things that happen in a real estate transaction? I've got two more quick stories for you. But again, if you'd like to reach out to me, you want to have a discussion about helping you buy, sell, invest in real estate. Maybe you own some cash flowing real estate right now that you'd like to have managed. We'd welcome the opportunity to earn your business. Our number is 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065, or go to listingsincharleston.com, listingsincharleston.com. So two more quick stories. Again, all these are designed to kind of help you better understand if this were to ever happen to you, what happens, right? What are your rights? What do you do when you go to a house? And this is my first of two stories to kind of end the show here. And so, let's say that you have just sold your house in, let's say, Ohio, and you're moving back to Charleston, and you're in the moving truck. Closing is first thing in the morning, so you've driven through the night. You're tired. You meet your real estate agent at the house at 9 o'clock in the morning, right before closing, just to make sure that everything is on the up and up. And you get to the house, and the first thing you notice is that all the plants are gone. All the plants in the front, side, and back of the house have been ripped out of the ground. Then you go inside the house. The light fixtures are gone. The appliances are gone. I mean, I laugh at it now, and my client, I think, was so tired and delirious from the drive that all he could do was laugh because it's just absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, we call the listing agent. We say, hey, I'm not sure if you've talked to the seller or not, but you should be aware that they have literally removed every single planting at this property, except for the trees that they couldn't rip out of the ground. And if they could, I'm sure they would have. And they've taken all of the appliances. It's a bare kitchen. And they've taken all the light fixtures in the contract, by the way. And this is so important. And this is why writing contracts is, you just can't mess around with stuff like this. You've got to work with somebody that understands what in the world they're doing. And they're crossing their T's and they're dotting their I's. Because I had a deal blow up a little bit ago because the agent forgot to ask for the appliances. The buyer's a first-time home buyer. They can't go and buy new appliances, fridge, washer, dryer. So they ended up having to lose their earnest money after paying for an inspection and an appraisal because the seller had made arrangements for those appliances, was willing to sell them at a discount, but the buyer had no extra money. So you got to be careful with this stuff. But back to this original story, the seller ended up having to pay. I want to say it was, and this was a while ago, but the seller had to pay like $20,000 in landscaping and appliances and fixtures because it was not an inexpensive house. And the idea that somebody would do that in the first place is just ridiculous. But in that instance, had the buyer chose not to close, it would have been the seller in default, not the buyer, because the seller didn't leave the property in the condition that the contract stated it was supposed to be in. So that one's just, a little, it's just crazy. It's funny now, but it's ridiculous. But this is the other one. This one happened a few years ago as well. And I'll skip some of the details, but I'm representing the seller. Another agent is representing the buyer. We show up at closing. Both the buyer and the seller are using the same closing attorney. Again, we just talked about how I do not advise that, but it's what the seller wanted to do, so be it. We notice that there's, we both get to the closing attorney's office at the same time, and we notice that there's basically shouting going on in an empty conference room. And it turns out that it's the agent and the buyer basically yelling at one another. And so the seller and I lock eyes. We're like, what in the world is going on now? Up until that point, it had been a pretty smooth transaction. Well, what happened was the buyer and the buyer agent were really good friends. I doubt they're friends anymore. But they were really good friends. The buyer, you can hear the buyer saying to the agent that we trusted you. I can't believe you're doing this. And we're hearing this. We don't have any details yet. So we're just like, what in the world is going on? Are we going to close today? Did this deal just blow up? What's going on? Well, as it turns out, the buyer agent asked the buyer the day of closing to go ahead and wire her or PayPal her or write her a check for the $2,500 in commission that the buyer owed her. And the buyer's like, what in the world are you talking about? We don't owe you any. What? Totally confused. Well, it turns out that the agent had submitted multiple offers for this buyer. At no point in time did the agent discuss or go through the buyer agency agreement, which is a contract that allows an agent to officially represent a buyer in a client level capacity. On that agreement, it dictates how much commission that agent is going to earn. In this instance, that agent wanted to earn a 3% commission. The seller was paying 2.5% commission. So the agent was trying to hold the buyer hostage for the 0.5% additional commission that agent insisted upon earning. And on top of that, the agent was trying to get the buyer to pay them directly. Well, you're a sub-agent of the broker. All commissions have to run through the brokerage because they basically get a cut of everything. And, I don't have time to tell you all the finer points and details, but be sure that you review all the contracts that you sign is my advice there. Okay. It's really important so you don't get into situations like this. I appreciate you guys listening. Hope you guys enjoy your Halloween. Thanks for listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Y'all enjoy your weekend.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty on